Matt Walsh. I put it up on Getter earlier today. This is his tweet. Start with a boy, take away his father, sit him in front of a screen all day, feed him porn, feed him an endless stream of content, give him no moral formation, no guidance, no companionship, give him psychotropic drugs, isolate him. That's how you make a school shooter. Rinse and repeat.
But when I look at reality, and I've said this to every mass shooting, pretty much, when I look at the reality, in the 50s, kids were going to school with guns. 60s, 70s, 80s, there was shooting clubs. You could walk into a hardware store and buy a gun. There was none of these background checks and these 20,000 laws that we have on the books now. Okay? But you can draw a straight line, Steve. You can draw a straight line from the generation that grew up having these psychotropic drugs shoved down their throat. Oh, your kid fidgeted in school? Oh, he passed a note? Here, give him these pills. You can draw a straight line from when they reached a certain age, their mid-teens, to when these mass shootings started happening, like Columbine. That was the first generation that was on these drugs. And if you look at, I'm not saying every shooter, but almost every shooter, they're on some kind of psychotropic drugs. And nobody looks at that. And it's a proven fact. I showed, everybody saying today, well, prove your tweet. I showed three studies that were done, years ago. In the 2018, I think was the 2019 was the most recent study. And it shows a direct correlation between people taking these drugs and people committing these crimes. And I'm not stigmatizing. I'm not saying if you have ADHD, which suddenly appeared a few decades ago, I'm not saying if you have that and you're on drugs for that you're going to become a mass shooter. But every drug has side effects, although rare. But if it affects even 1% of people who take Adderall or Ritalin or any of these other psychotropic drugs, that's a lot of people. And if they have a violent reaction to these drugs, the other thing is, too, we're giving drugs to people when they're children, Steve, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. Their minds aren't fully formed, and they're a little fidgety in school, so let's give them these drugs. And you think there's going to be no consequences from that? Of course there are going to be consequences.
Matt Walsh. I put it up on Getter earlier today. This is his tweet. Start with a boy, take away his father, sit him in front of a screen all day, feed him porn, feed him an endless stream of content, give him no moral formation, no guidance, no companionship, give him psychotropic drugs, isolate him. That's how you make a school shooter. Rinse and repeat.